on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Tonight, controversial orders. State bank heads claim that it was former Minister Ravi Karunanayake who instructed them to bid lower in the controversial bond issuance. Constitutional proceedings. Prime Minister says new constitution will not be passed overnight.
We'll take it up for debate and discussion.
Raising Rajapaksas. Minister Rajatissa Narodna says former Minister Basil Rajapaksa understands politics very well. Welcome to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka tourism plans to reach a target of 4 million tourists by 2020. And in international headlines, Las Vegas massacre. Shooter had cameras meticulously placed around sniper's nest for deadly 11-minute attack. Good evening to all our viewers across Sri Lanka and around the world. This is First at 9 and I'm Mahesh Johnny. Our coverage tonight begins with the latest from the Bond Commission. The heads of state banks revealed before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the controversial bond issuance today that the former Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake instructed them to bid lower rates at bond auctions held on the 29th and the 31st of March 2016. They further revealed that state banks missed out on profits since the central bank accepted bids at higher rates than what was promised by the former minister.
7 officials of several state banks who sat in on the controversial meeting held at the Ministry of Finance on the 28th of March 2016 were convened before the Commission to testify today. Accordingly, the General Manager of the People's Bank, N. Vasantakumar, appeared before the Commission first and revealed he attended the meeting following an invitation by the then Minister of Finance, Ravi Karunanayake, who at the meeting advised to bid lower rates to assist the government in decreasing interest rates. He added that during his long term in office, this was the first and only time a Minister of Finance gave instructions on how to bid at auctions. In the meantime, the chairman of the People's Bank, Hemasiri Fernando, testifying before the Commission, said that at the bond auction held on the 29th of March 2016, bids were accepted at more than the yield rate promised by the then Minister of Finance. He further said that the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, P. Samarasiri, too joined the meeting with the former Minister of Finance. He also revealed that the same thing happened again at the bond auction held on the 31st of March 2016. The chairman of the People's Bank further revealed that former Minister Karunanayake requested him to appoint a person called Haliyadda with inadequate qualifications to the treasury of the People's Bank, which he refused. The chairman of the National Savings Bank, Aswin De Silva, the advisor of the Treasury at the NSB, Appu Hamilage Lionel, the chairman of the Bank of Ceylon, Ronald Pereira, and 2 other witnesses testifying before the Commission said, although they bid at higher rates following the advice of the former Minister of Finance, they missed the opportunity to earn profits since bids of a high yield rate were accepted.
A code of conduct for members of parliament looks to be on the horizon. Speaker of the Parliament, Karu Jayasuriya, today made the revelation, adding that it is drafted and almost finalised. The Speaker said it is drafted with the intention of regulating the conduct of parliamentarians as their capacity as representatives of the people. The revelation came at the 8th conference of the Association of SAC Speakers and Parliamentarians that commenced in Colombo today.
The 8th conference of the Association of SAC Speakers and Parliamentarians got underway with the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. The conference is a platform for the parliaments of South Asia to work together to reach the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It will be held in Colombo until the 6th of this month.
The traditional way of constitution drafting has been for Parliament to appoint a select committee. But we felt that was not appropriate for Sri Lanka. Immediately you will find a division and you will find the different reports coming as official positions of parties and as official reports. So we have used another mechanism, a modified version of a Constituent Assembly. I say a modified version because the Parliament constituted itself into a Constituent Assembly by resolution. and conferred on that Constituent Assembly the powers of a committee of the whole Parliament to prepare and submit to Parliament a draft constitution. Because we felt the Constituent Assembly will give you the opportunity of forming a consensus without having to divide on these issues where members are free to express their views. To guide the work of the Constituent Assembly, we have appointed a steering committee, and this is how the work starts. But we'll take it up for debate and discussion when we have the interim report of the steering committee. Then started a long discussion among ourselves. What is devolution? What is the nature of the state? Whether we should have a second chamber? What should be the electoral system? Each of those topics just alarm in some quarters that we are going to pass a constitution tomorrow. No.
A tense situation erupted at the Sri Lanka Medical Council when newly appointed SLMC Chairman Professor Colvin Gunaratne arrived to take up his duties after being appointed on Monday. The incident occurred as medical students gathered near the location to voice their opposition to the chairman's appointment.
SLMC Chairman Professor Colvin Gunaratne remained indoors for about an hour and upon his exit faced more protests from medical students. He, however, left the place without incident. Meanwhile, convening a media briefing, the Government Medical Officers Association commented on the appointment of the SLMC chairman.
It is proven that the person appointed is a politician. He was in the national list of a particular political party. Minister Rajatissa Narodna may have hoped to succeed by appointing this person when all else is going wrong for him. He can't play those games with us.
Meanwhile, the students' movement against Saitam held a rally in Maharagama today.
The Minister of Higher Education asks us to return to lectures as the court case is underway. We will not put our faith in your judicial system and turn back our struggle.
Meanwhile, Minister of Health Dr. Rajatissa Narodna also voiced his views on the Saitam issue.
The Saitam issue is being solved. We held discussions today as well, including the minimum standard of medical education. Faculty heads have urged students to return to lectures, but they are prevented from returning because if they do, the leftist parties will be in trouble.
In other local stories, President Maithripala says it is imperative to encourage entrepreneurs in the handicraft sector in the country by introducing a new insurance scheme for the industry. The President made these remarks at an event held at the BMICH today.
Shilpa Abhimani International Handicrafts Festival 2017 was declared open by President Maithripala Sirisena today. The festival, organised by the National Crafts Council, paves way for 25,000 local craftsmen representing 21 fields to showcase their talents. The festival will be held until the 8th of this month.
In order to encourage entrepreneurs in this industry, we must provide them the necessary resources, loans and also a new insurance scheme. We are a poor country when it comes to foreign revenue. That's why it's important to give the priority for local productions. We get only a portion of foreign revenue when there are investments. The other nations in the agreement get the rest of the revenue. But if we can introduce local handicraft entrepreneurs to the international market, we'll be able to develop this industry as one that draws in more of foreign income. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe's proposal to cancel the implementation of Indo-Lanka ferry service between Colombo and Tuticorin. This information was revealed today at the Cabinet briefing held at the Information Department. Several other Cabinet decisions were also revealed at the briefing as well.
The Cabinet also approved the proposal by Minister of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure Harin Fernando to implement 27 projects by ICTA within 2016 to 2019 under 2017 budgetary allocations. Meanwhile, proposal by Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Maithripala de Silva to give contract for relocation of immigrant area of Bandaranaike International Airport in Catalonia to RN Constructions Private Limited for 472.5 million rupees received approval. Meanwhile, 3 proposals by Minister of Justice Thalathathu Korala also got the nod of the Cabinet. The proposal to publish the bill drafted to amend the Commercial Mediation Centre of Sri Lanka Act No. 44 of 2000 in Gazette and present it in the Parliament received approval. The Justice Minister has also sought approval to publish the bill drafted to amend the Trust Ordinance in Gazette and present it in the Parliament for approval.
Meanwhile, Cabinet co-spokesperson Minister Dr. Rajatissa Narodna responded to questions raised by journalists at the same media briefing regarding former Minister Basil Rajapaksa's comments on releasing land in the northern province. The former minister made these remarks during his visit to the north recently. It was a very good comment because there is no one to object this anymore. Besides, he himself has said that the army committed war crimes. If former President Mahinda Rajapaksa worked according to what Basil said, then the previous government would still be intact. But instead, the former president worked according to what Gotabaya Rajapaksa said. One Rajapaksa who very well understood that there are other countries in the world is Basil Rajapaksa. Yes, because it was him who conducted the elections. I always said it was Gotabaya Rajapaksa who led the elections towards its defeat. The one who is dubbed the new president now. It hasn't blossomed yet. It'll only be a problem if it blossoms. The joint opposition claims that the present government is violating the fundamentals of democracy. Representatives of the joint opposition made these comments at a media briefing held in Colombo this morning. 3 provincial councils expired last week with their governors given their power. It's complete dictatorship with no duties given to the public representatives. This is completely against the country's constitution. On the 8th of January 2015, when President gave oaths as the head of state, the Prime Minister was also appointed without considering the majority for the first time in history. That was this government's starting point of democracy violation. In yesterday's statement by Arjuna Mahendran, he clearly mentioned that the funding system was changed under the instructions of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Ideally, the Premier should resign. JVP parliamentarian Sunil Hadunethi charges that the government has failed to prevent loss-making national carrier Sri Lankan from falling further into crisis. He says that despite the government claiming that fresh aircraft purchases are halted, the relevant aircraft company is, however, continuing to manufacture aircraft intended for Sri Lanka.
The company AirCap has begun production of 4 new aircraft for our country. We asked from the Sri Lankan Airlines whether they are planning on purchasing this aircraft, to which they said no. The Sri Lankan airline was operated during 2016 and 2017 with a loan of 60 billion rupees obtained from the Bank of Ceylon and the People's Bank. Despite this investment, the operations loss last year is 28 billion rupees. You can't salvage this carrier. There are over 190 who draw a salary of more than 1 million rupees. Several others at the top draw more than 4 million rupees a month. As far as I know, they've started the Melbourne route mainly because the CEO's family is living in Melbourne and for him to visit them during the weekends. So it's not worth for an airline to service like that. There should be passengers. So is there anyone in the world who would take over this airline that has no routes, no revenue, but a loss of 1.5 billion rupees?
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back, everyone. Is Sri Lanka a haven for animals, and are we following the ethics of wildlife conservation? Well, given its significance on World Animal Day today, First at 9 Southern Upeka took a look at the National Zoological Gardens in Dehibala to give you an insight into the role of a modern zoo in the bigger picture of animal conservation and how the zoo strives to evolve to meet world standards.
In 1925, a German writer named Heinrich Zimmermann convened the first ever World Animal Day in Berlin. Today, it has become a global event, uniting people together through their love for animals. Led and sponsored by UK-based animal welfare charity Nature Watch Foundation, The mission of World Animal Day is to raise the status of animals in order to improve welfare standards around the globe. Zoological parks across the world stir fierce debate on their role in animal welfare as well as conservation. All in all, it raises one question: is the freedom of a wild animal too much of a price to pay for its life? There are those who argue that wild animals should remain in the wild, pointing out that cages and restrictive enclosures, along with forced performances, put animals under severe stress, depriving them of their natural freedom and rights, which are as real as ours. As zoos evolve, however, things change.
In the present day, although zoos still aim to entertain the public, they offset that with a strong focus on public awareness, education, research and conservation work.
We have a master plan to improve the animal welfare and the animal enclosures. Bengal tiger enclosure and the chimpanzee enclosures are the examples for the newly constructed enclosures. Always we try to give optimum space and also their natural habitat. We can naturalize their behaviors. So there are types of enrichment. It means environmental enrichment, feeding enrichment, sometimes toys. There are a lot of enrichments. So if we give in food today in this way, tomorrow we can do it in a different manner. Sometimes we can give food as a puzzle. So then they have to find the food and they have to consume the time to find the food. Actually, most of the time we have criticism about elephant chaining. Now we have opened a new enclosure for the free living area, and also if we think about the elephant dance, it's not like a circus, but it's like some activity or exercises. So I believe it's not harmful for the elephants.
The Dehiwala Zoo has also ventured into captive breeding of endangered species, a concept that has seen animals across the world rescued from the brink of extinction. The main focus here is on Sri Lanka's endemic, critically endangered freshwater fish, as explained by the curator of the zoo's aquarium and reptilium, Sumedha Abesinghe. He added that conservation of Sri Lanka's diverse amphibians is in the pipeline.
There are more than 25 endemic species in our aquarium. Among the critically endangered fishes, we have already started to breed them. We have planned to register the environment in the near future. Actually, in this stage, we are exhibiting only 3 amphibian species, but in the second stage, we expect to expand this program, and within 6-month period, we expect a breeding program on amphibian species and releasing them to the wild.
The Dehiwala Zoo continues to evolve, striving to meet world standards, but it faces the overwhelming restriction of space. Its expansion into Pinnavala and Ridiyagama in Hambantota is welcome progress, but it needs to be seen in the long term whether these new ventures would actually serve towards conservation, for it is the hope of many that they go beyond mere sites of recreation.
Well, let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
CCTV cameras recorded footage of the theft of a motorcycle worth more than 300,000 rupees in Galpatha, Kalutara. The suspect had arrived under the pretext of buying the motorcycle. Pudukkottai police raided an illegal firearms manufactory in a house in Pudukkottai and confiscated 10 firearms and manufacturing equipment. The suspect arrested during the raid was remanded until the 10th of October. The Horana Magistrates Court today imposed a 370,000 rupee fine and meted out 1 year's suspended prison sentence for a motorcyclist who was involved in an accident on Sunday. The suspect was charged under 12 offences, including attempted hit and run, speeding, usage of an unregistered vehicle and possession of an improper licence plate. Around 200 workers at a private apparel factory in Norwood, Hatton were hospitalised following inhalation of a toxic gas. They were admitted to the Dikkoe Base Hospital with initial reports of an allergic reaction. 2 wild elephants were discovered trapped in an abandoned well in Mahakumbukkadavala in Puttlam. While one died, the other was rescued.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back, everyone. With the increased interest in Sri Lanka, the government aims to increase tourist arrivals up to 4 million by the year 2020. Addressing the Tourism Leaders Summit and International Research Symposium today, Tourism Minister John Amarathunga went on to emphasize on the importance of the tourism industry as a leading earner of foreign revenue for the country.
The third consecutive Tourism Leaders Summit and International Research Symposium was held at the BMICH today under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. Themed as Sustainable Tourism for Development and Way Forward for Sri Lanka, the summit saw over 1,500 local as well as international industry professionals.
In the global context today, tourism generates close to 12% of the world GDP, generating over 250 million jobs, which is more than 12 times the population of Sri Lanka. It is the third largest export industry in the world. Last year, according to UNWTO estimates, over 1.2 billion people crossed borders as tourists. And by 2030, the figure is expected to grow up to 1.8 billion. For us here in Sri Lanka, our aim is to achieve 4 million tourist arrivals by the year 2020, along with the hope to earn US dollars approximately 7 billion, which is much needed foreign exchange for our country, provided also direct employment to more than 600,000 people and a 1 million benefit to the indirectly coming up from the industry.
In international business, European Competition Commissioner Margrethe Vestager said today that the EU executive was taking Ireland to the European Court of Justice for its failure to recover up to 13 billion euros of tax due from Apple. The Commission ordered the US tech giant in August 2016 to pay the underpaid taxes as it ruled the firm had received illegal status aid, one of the number of deals the EU has targeted between multinationals and unusual smaller EU states. The Commission said the deadline for Ireland to implement its decision had been January 3rd this year, and that until the aid was recovered, the company continued to benefit from an illegal advantage. Apple is appealing the case, arguing that the revenues in question are subject to US tax rules. The Commission said that Ireland had made progress on calculating the exact amount due, but was only planning to conclude the work by March 2018 at the earliest. Let's take you to the Sri Lankan stock market now. Sri Lankan shares rose for a fifth straight session today and closed at their highest in nearly 8 weeks as foreign investors brought shares in top lender Commercial Bank of Ceylon PLC. Now let's cross over to RM Sivanandan from the Colombo Stock Exchange for a detailed report.
The turnover was 2,444.04 million rupees with 31.61 million shares changing hands in 7,242 trades. The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,950.93 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases was 1,983.69 million rupees and the foreign sales was 70.61 million rupees.
The Sri Lankan rupee closed weaker today as dollar demand from importers surpassed the sale of US currency by exporters and banks due to inward remittances. The spot rupee ended at 153 rupees and 30 to 38 per dollar compared with yesterday's close of 153 rupees and 23 to 30 cents. Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies around the world.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back on to international news. Las Vegas gunman had cameras around his hotel sway. Taking a look at that story, U.S. officials say that the gunman of Sunday's Las Vegas attack set up a number of cameras in and around his hotel suite. Gunman Stephen Paddock opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel towards an open-air music festival, killing at least 59 and injuring at least 500 people.
Police say 3 cameras were fixed in the hallway and the hotel suite by the attacker in order to track the movements of law enforcement and security. Despite the inability to establish the motive behind the attack, police say that the attack was extensively pre-planned upon the amount and the type of weaponry which were found.
The suspect, I can tell you that we know now that he fired off and on for somewhere between 9 and 11 minutes. We know that the suspect fired over a dozen or so volleys, and we know that the firing by the suspect ceased at 10:19.
Meanwhile, as per international media, girlfriend of the attacker, Mary Lou Danley, was met by federal agents following her arrival in Los Angeles last night. Mary Lou Danley, who was in Philippines, was named a person of interest by U.S. authorities upon the gunman's transfer of $100,000 to her account before the attack.
U.S. President Donald Trump visited Puerto Rico yesterday as reassurance of his commitment towards the recovery of the island's struggling residents following the devastation caused by Hurricane Maria. The president, who landed in Puerto Rico's capital San Juan, was welcomed by its mayor.
Hurricane Maria disrupted the power supply of the entire island, leaving limited access to resources such as water and fuel. President Trump arrived in Puerto Rico yesterday and visited the temporary disaster relief distribution center at the capital's Calvary Chapel. However, President Trump's visit was subjected to criticism of residents, while some were seen holding anti-Trump protests.
Speaking at his first interview since the referendum, Catalan leader Carles Puigdemont said that his government would act at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. The referendum was held amid Spanish police violence, which nearly injured around 900 civilians and 33 police officers, causing several protests across the region of Catalonia. Spain's King Felipe VI, who addressed the nation yesterday, stated that he is strongly committed to the Spanish constitution and the unity of the nation, and that Catalan leaders have broken the law of the state, displaying an inadmissible lack of loyalty. Let's move on to sports now. Former captain of the Sri Lankan team, Maithripala Javardhana, intends on making final attempt to salvage Sri Lankan cricket from the mire it is currently in. He made his intentions clear at discussions yesterday held between members of the Independent Advisory Committee and Sports Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara to revive country's cricket.
The 5-member advisory committee, comprising of Hema Kamarasuriya, Anurathen Nakon, Aravind De Silva, Kumar Sangakkara and Maithripala Javardhana met with the Minister of Sports, Dayasiri Jayasekara, for the first time following its appointment.
If a quick solution was possible, it would have already been implemented, but it is better to bring a lasting solution than plastering over issues. We spent a year last time, but I won't spend that long if plans are not coming to fruition. We are hoping to produce a short-term plan and to implement it within 3 months. If that happens, we can work ahead. If not, we will have to let it go. If that happens, I personally will not prefer to express my views regarding Sri Lanka cricket. This is my last attempt. I don't know about the rest. There are issues regarding injuries in our cricket. Most of the players get injured. We have to look into why this is happening, and we have to address that cause. Those who are in the committee do not work for salary. They are volunteering as advisors. I hope to implement the recommendations soon. Sri Lanka cricket confirms that veteran seamer Lasith Malinga is overlooked for the 5-match one-day international series against Pakistan to be played in the UAE. Since his comeback following a lengthy injury layoff, Malinga drew continuous criticism from various quarters over his fitness and performance in the field. Malinga failed to impress during Sri Lanka's recent disastrous series against India at home, where he was heavily criticised for his fielding. A bit of tennis. Nick Kyrgios flew into the quarterfinals of China Open by beating Germany's Mishka Zverev in the second round in Beijing yesterday.
Nick Kyrgios came back from a set down to see off German Misha Zverev 3-6, 6-2, 6-2 in their China Open second round clash yesterday. After dropping the first set, the Australian fought back to close out the match in 82 minutes. Kyrgios will face Belgium's Steve Darcis in the quarterfinals.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, Shanella Fernando is at the Other Derana Weather Centre with tomorrow's weather.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Starting off with your temperatures for tomorrow, they are to vary between 21 and 34 degrees Celsius. Several spells of showers will occur in the western, northwestern, Sabaragamuwa and central provinces and in the Galle and Matra districts. Meanwhile, a few places in the country may experience thunder showers with temporarily localized strong winds also expected. That's it from tonight's Weather Centre. Up next is your city-by-city forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. Katharina Chang will return tomorrow first at 9, so be sure to join her then. And before we go, we'd like to take you to the Kaudulla National Park in the heart of the Cultural Triangle. The park is a hotspot for weaving elephants and other species of wildlife. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.